All right, guys. So this week we're working more with exponential functions, and now we're just talking about our properties of exponential functions and attributes. Okay, so right here you have your what you already see. That's our basic form of exponential function. Y equals a times b to the x power. Anytime you see this, and I'm going to go over an explanation first, and then we'll see it with some examples. But this right here, every time you see this, your A, that's what we're going to call your starting point. Just like we use with our quadratics, like in real world situations, we always started at the y-intercept. So that's also going to give you your y-intercept. And then here, your B, this is your growth or decay factor. Okay. And then you'll have one part that's real easy about this is your domain and range. Your domain is always all real numbers. Okay, your range can change at times, but it's always all real numbers. Okay, so we're going to use this to label some parts of this example one right here. Okay, so first we start off. Let's see, we have f of x equals 4 times 2 to the x. So our starting point or the y-intercept is 4. Okay, so that's the point 0, 4. And we're going to look at this on a graph here in just a second. This is a growth factor. Okay, our B, see, growth factor over here, B. Our B is 2. It's greater than 1. That means you're going to multiply by 2 every time because you're raising 2 to an exponent. So it's going to get larger. So our growth factor is 2. Okay. Our domain is all real numbers. Our range, see here, the lowest you can get, well, the lower and lower negative that your x value gets here. Like if we look at a table real quick, say -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 for our x value. If we plug in -2 here, that's going to be 4 times 2 to the -2. Well, we remember negative exponents means you flip it. So this becomes 4 over 2 squared, which is 4 over 4, which is 1. So that's a 1. Then to the -1 becomes a 2, and this is 4. And then you have 8, and then 16. Okay. And it increases by more each time, which makes this exponential function. But look, if this was a -3, x was a -3, you would have 4. You would end up with 4 over 8, which is 1/2. So it gets smaller. So that would just get into a smaller fraction every time. So it would get closer and closer to 0. So your range is going to be y is greater than 0. And we'll explain, that'll make a little more sense when we look at a graph here in just a minute. Okay. All right. So now here's a graph that we're looking at. Okay. Now remember, this is y equals a times b to the x. So I can write that a little bit better. There we go. So here, if you look for a, which is our starting point, or the initial value, which is, remember, which is also your y-intercept, your initial value, you have 3 to the x. So 3 is your b. Your a is not there, which is understood 1. So your initial value here, your y-intercept, is the point 0, 1. So we put that point on the graph. Okay, and now we can look at a table. Let's go to -3 this time, since we needed it last time. So 3 to the -3, that's 1 over 3 to the third, which is 1 over 27. Okay, 3 to the -2 is 1/9. 3 to the -1 is 1/3. 3 to the 0 is 1. Then 3 and then 9. Okay, so here that's 1, 0, 1. There's our y-intercept, our starting point. -1 is 1/3, so that's about here. And then we have 1/9, and then 1/27. And it's going to keep getting a smaller and smaller and smaller fraction, but never quite equals 0. That's why this right here is called an asymptote. That just means that you approach it, but you never touch it. It gets closer and closer to 0, the graph will, but it will never actually equal 0. Now we finish graphing. 0, 1, we have 1, 3, and then 2, 9. And here's the shape of our graph. Finish out with our domain and range. Our domain is always for exponential, all real numbers. Then our range, remember, is from bottom to top, because range is y. The bottom, it looks like 0. It's getting close to 0, but never touches. But so our range goes from 0, there's an arrow, keeps going up forever, to infinity. So y is greater than 0 for your range. And that is pretty much it. Make sure you watch this video before you do your practice. And as always, use office hours if you have any questions. Y'all have a good day.